Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Genesis Home Podcast, where we talk to professionals in real estate, business, community, and beyond. Today, we are talking with Tanisha E. of the AHA Experience. Tanisha is a woman with many talents. We are talking about the power of storytelling, her amazing career in the arts, yoga, and so much more. So join us. Of the Genesis Home Podcast, I am here today with the amazing Tanisha E.
Yes!
Hi, Tanisha.
What's up, Rita? How you doing?
How you doing? So we actually met on Twitter, so this is gonna be really fun.
I know, yeah, it will. You're gonna find out things about me, and I'm not bashful.
I know. So you are a woman of many talents, so I'm gonna let you explain, because I know you have a podcast, you write, you're in the arts.
Yeah.
You save dolphins. I don't know. You just have so many things.
I wish, because I love dolphins. They're like my favorite sea animals besides sea otters. I love sea otters.
So why don't you tell us about yourself and your renaissance of talents?
Okay, so my name is Tanisha, as Rita said, and I am. God, yes, I am a Renaissance woman. I think we all should be Renaissance people, because Renaissance people had a lot of talents. And I'm a Tantra yoga instructor, and it's based in the Kaula Shaivistic tradition. Tantra yoga is not sex yoga, although it does enhance your sex life. All yoga do. And I run a site called the ahaexperience.co. And there you can sign up for membership to take yoga classes all week for a nominal fee. I also run a podcast called the AHA Experience, because my goal is to elevate the voices mostly of women and of women of color specifically, although I have other women on there and I've had 2 men on there. But I like storytelling. And so I like to uplift the voices that are rarely heard. So that's my thing. I'm also a photographer. I stepped into that role about 3 years ago, and I absolutely love it. It just enhances my storytelling in a visual way. My goal one day is to be a documentary filmmaker. If that ever happens, some things are in the works for that. Oh God, what else? I'm a Navy veteran. So I served in the military, and I was stationed in Sicily. And I feel like I'm missing something, but I think that's the gist.
First of all, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
And yes, that is a lot.
No. Oh, and I write for Celibacy. That's what you were saying. I'm a writer.
Oh, yeah.
That part. Yeah.
One day I will get it. I will finally make it where I could say that you wrote a thing.
Tanisha wrote a thing, y'all. I know. I'm so all about the write a thing, and it was cracking up.
I'm gonna try it with it, and I'm promise I think it might be on my birthday that I'm just gonna pay attention really closely. It's like
I know. Jump on it. But I kind of like I podcasted a thing. That's cute. I like that.
You started a trend.
I did. Trendsetters over here. That's what we do.
So, the interesting thing is you mentioned a lot about everything's kind of focused around storytelling.
Yes.
Yes. In different mediums, between the photography and even with yoga and there's a movement to that. Yeah. So I would like to thank my stepdad for that, for teaching me that. Oh. So there's a movement behind everything. So everything has a flow to it. What inspired you to become or decide to embark on this journey?
Do you mean like my yoga practice?
All of it, actually. Like, what inspires you?
Funny enough, when I was a kid, I was a storyteller as a kid. It's just the thing that I loved doing was recounting a story and making everyone laugh. I was a child actress, in Houston, like I acted in Houston. My mom was trying to get me like on a more national stage, but when you're from Houston and you're trying to break into acting, it's not like being in New York or LA where there are agents everywhere. In Houston, there are agents, but they want you to pay like $14,000 to get your kids started. And we Black and poor, so that's not gonna happen. And so I kind of just gave up the dream. Since I was about 8 or 9, I wanted to be a cinematographer, and I just gave up the dream because I felt like it was unattainable. Not because I didn't see it, because that, us Xers kids, we weren't really raised to look outward for something.
Mm-hmm.
Our parents told us what we could do. You know what I mean, and kind of beefed us up. And my mom was always supportive, but it just didn't make any sense, and I felt guilty about it. So I ended up, when I went into the military, I wanted to be a surgeon because it was more practical. And then when I got out of the military, I was a surgical tech in the military. When I got out of the military, I traveled around. I went to Bible college. Girl, if I tell you about my spiritual journey, you'll trip out. That's hilarious. And then I ended up going back to school to do my see. I was going to do my studies in international relations with a focus on Africa and the Middle East. It didn't work for me. I'm just not. I'm a diplomat, not really political, that type of thing. So I ended up going into fashion merchandising, and that's when I was reintroduced to my creative side. And so since then, since I was about 27 years old, everything that I do, there's something creative to it. Um, and for me, it's just a big deal because I believe that stories in themselves is what creates the world that we live in. It tells us who we are, where we've been, where we are now, and possibly where we're going. So I feel like telling a story and telling what type of story, it shapes your world. So that's what I love to do. I just love telling stories.
That's Yes, you do. That's actually really cool. So, you know, it's the
I know,
beautiful
right?
thing about your story is the fact that it's not, linear. Sometimes when people tell their stories, you're like, well,
Mm-mm.
I went from corporate to now baking cupcakes. And there's nothing wrong with corporate to baking cupcakes, but I'm just saying that the,
Right.
because I love cupcakes, but the, the, the the balance between the tactile versus pursuing a dream or a goal is the beautiful part of that.
Yes.
And oddly enough, we met towards like the end of 2019. Well, we met via Twitter, but towards the end of 2019, but we really started talking more during 2020. So what was 2020 like
Yeah.
for you? I mean, on a creative level, that could have been that could have been complicated.
Yeah, it could have been complicated. Strangely enough, and I don't say this often because I know that 2020 was really rough for a lot of people. And some of my friends in my periphery, they had some tough years. Like I had a friend who lost two of her sisters to murder. Someone murdered them. And then I had another friend who was diagnosed with
Mm-hmm.
stage 4 cancer. But those are literally the only two situations that went, really bad
Mm-hmm.
in 2020. But for me personally, 2020 was a great year. And I think it was a great year for me because the previous 15 years were basically 2020 for 15 years
Ah.
for me. So by the time I got to 2020, everybody's melting down, they freaking out. I'm just like, oh, this ain't bad. Like it wasn't bad. And I mean, that's when I came back on Twitter. That's when I started meeting all these wonderful people. I ended up getting a job writing for Celebici, which has led me to meeting more people. I mean, I got Ava DuVernay following me on Twitter right now. I don't really say that often, but she does. So it's like, so 2020 was great. I feel like I ended up building community online when I didn't expect it at
Mm-hmm.
all. I reconnected with my mother. Me and my mom, we were kind of outs on our relationship, and we became super close last year. And some of my good friends here in Houston, because I moved back to Houston. I was in Oakland for 6 years, and then I went to Thailand to study traditional tantra, and then I came back home to Houston. So it wasn't bad.
So it was more like a foundation year for you. It's like,
Yeah.
reconnecting, establishing new community or community for yourself, your new network. that's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful way of looking at it, because I think, and I think you're right. I mean, there's so much that happened during 2020 that I think, out of all that noise, it's nice to know that there was something created during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so never think that that's not a weird thing. That's actually a beautiful thing, because, I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan. I don't know if anyone knows this, but I actually like the story of the Phoenix.
Oh yes.
Exactly.
I am literally the Phoenix embodied.
And my favorite part of the Phoenix is not when things were pretty or fantastic, but when things got rough is when beautiful
Yeah.
things happen. So that it says a lot about who you are as a person. I mean, and I think with me personally, you were really supportive of, when I was going through my journey on social media and things like that. So you were kind of like the big sister.
Yeah.
And
Big sister niche.
yay! So I knew when I started this podcast, you had to be on it, because,
Mm,
you said in the beginning about, Black women and empowerment. I feel like if I don't bring the great people with me on my journey, or acknowledge what they've done, it
mm-hmm.
doesn't mean anything to me. Like, I feel like it would be a waste. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes,
So,
I do understand that.
what you have done so much, what have you learned in 2020? Like, I know you've learned a lot in your journey and stuff like that, but 2020 really opened a window to a lot at once. So, what experiences have shaped you during 2020 that you feel like you can learn or apply to 2021 and beyond?
So I used to be a person who used to run literally from all of my problems. This is how I ended up traveling a lot. And I was like, get me away from it all. I don't want to deal with it. But 2020 taught me to sit still. I was supposed to go to China last year to teach English in February. And when January came around, I had got a job, I had a contract, everything. January 1st came around, and I just felt uneasy about going. It had nothing. It was more that I needed to stay still because I got to build my relationship with my mother during this time period, and then all these other doors begin to open for me. So for 2020, what 2020 taught me is to stay still and trust that my ancestors and the universe was conspiring to make all of my dreams come true. And let me tell you, 2021 has already started off with a huge bang. Just,
Really?
oh yeah, I can't talk about it yet, not yet, but
Fair enough.
there's some there's some stuff going on behind the scenes. I can't wait to tell everybody, but if it pans out, but I'll let you know.
Oh, please do. I really am excited. So,
Yeah.
the thing is, I have followed your podcast and everything, and I love the fact that you're very big on making it about the the essence of the conversation.
Mm, mm-hmm,
Even
mm-hmm.
when you're writing or the photography, you can tell that there's a certain, like I said, I don't know, I like jazz, so I'm just gonna really just go in that route. There is a tone that you have when it comes to podcasting, and then there's like this, like, you know Thelonious Monk in between
Oh,
type
girl, don't
thing.
talk about Thelonious, okay? He was like my favorite. Oh my
Okay,
God.
that's the
Freaking
best
love
way to
Thelonious.
explain it. So,
Yes.
I,
Oh, that's like a what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I can't think of the word right now, but thank you, because being compared to Thelonious Monk.
there's like like, that's the best way I can explain it. There's like a Thelonious. You know how Thelonious Monk used to have, like, there's the music was actually in the quiet,
Yes.
so it really wasn't like him playing the piano, but was the silence in between.
Mm-hmm.
And I would listen to your podcast and I would read everything, but there's like this like, I want you to let this sink in type of thing. When
Mm.
is that really what you're going for? That people just like process what's happening right now, or just chill or something?
Yes.
Because I just don't know how to explain it, but it's just, there's like no really like debate team is failing me right now because it's like this the best way to explain it. There's like this like silence in between, but it's a silence that resonates.
Yeah, because there's beauty in silence.
Ex- Thank
You
you.
you know what I mean? We live in a society where it's just noise 24/7. We're inundated by noise all the time.
Exactly.
And some of us, including me, at one point now, I love it, but before, being in silence was so uncomfortable, it made me crazy. But it's the silence, it's where you learn and you grow. It's where you see things clearer when you
Mm-hmm.
get quiet, when you get to that quiet place. So even the yoga that I teach, right? Traditional tantric yoga, it's all about teaching all of your cells to meditate. That's what that is. And so when you get into a quiet place, you hear, you really hear your soul and what it's saying to you. It's very quiet. So if you're in noise all the time, you don't hear it. So you're making these choices out of fear, or most of the time it's out of fear, right? You're making a lot of choices out of fear, and that's because you don't know who you are, and you don't know who you are because you never taken the time to explore it by getting quiet and listening. So when I do my podcast, like I like for people to hear other people's story and then check to see where it's resonating with them, and then go on a journey to discover why it resonates.
Right. And I think, and it also ties well in with like the yoga and even with the photography. If you look at like a lot of your photos, and I really do hope people look at them,
Mm,
there's this it's not really just the model itself, it's what that environment that she brings to it.
yeah.
When people take photos, especially in today's world, everything's pretty much like, you know pretty person sitting on the corner. It's like Miami, and everyone's wearing like pretty glasses with pretty mud.
Right, right, right.
There's this beauty in the imperfections. There's this beauty in just the simplicity, which is why I love those boots in one of the photos. I mean, those boots, they're still in my head. But the it's just that, even like, so I always wanted to know, what do you want people to take away from these experiences with you? Either it's the podcast or yoga, or your writing.
For me, the whole purpose of what I do is I want people, I want to hold up a mirror, basically. But what I want people to see when they look in that mirror is their beauty. Like, and I love what you said, the beauty in the imperfection. I always say that. I want them to see their beauty. I want them to see themselves as they fully are, as a divine being that's flawed at times, to embrace those flaws. You get what I mean? And so
Right.
when I take a picture, a lot of the women that I've taken pictures of, except for maybe one or two, all didn't realize how beautiful they were until they saw themselves in the pictures. And so it's like, I want you to see the world from my eyes a little bit, because I
I
see
know.
beauty in everything.
Yeah, I know how that feels because I am not photogenic at all.
You think you're not photogenic, you just haven't had the right photographer.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus.
Let me
I
come
either
to
look
New
like
York.
a teenager, either look like a teenager,
Yes, you do.
or I look like a teenager from the 60s, or I look like a teenager from the 20s. If you saw my driver's license, it looks like a teenager from the 20s. Or I look angry, or I look confused.
Yeah. Mm-mm. When I come to New York, we're gonna do a shoot, because I love to do, because a lot of people, they're so funny with me. They'll get in front of my camera and they'll start posing, and I don't take any pictures. When I take the picture is when they stop posing. I snap it.
I don't even pose. I act like it's like, like the DMV. Let's get this over with. Please do not point at the thing with the camera and the smiley face that does nothing. I'm just going to look at you like you nuts.
Right. Right. You have to feel comfortable, though. And that's the other part of a great photography. If the person is not making you feel comfortable at home, there's this sort of uh, anxiety in front of the camera.
I will say though, my best to this very day, as much as I love, I mean, I'm in my 30s, but the best thing I will honestly say, hey,
Wait a minute, how old are you for real? Because you do look like you're 19.
I am actually 32. I'll be 33 this year.
Oh, that's so cute. I love
it. So to this very day, people wonder why this is like I don't take photos. It's because the best headshots I've ever taken was actually the ones I use on my social media.
That is hilarious.
I've never taken any good photos prior to that, and that was due to an amazing photographer. Her name is Ashley Wu, and she said the exact same thing you said. Like, you just never had the right photographer.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, I think partly is tied to, and you've mentioned it so many times about those experiences and how those experiences shape us.
Yeah.
You know, from traveling and things like that. And and I've seen your work, and your work has a classic to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, it's awe-inspiring. You know, certain things you miss those, those old school classic vintage but modern twist to it. Like, like, I'm aware we're in 2020 and I'm aware this is gonna be a digital camera, but does it have to look digital?
Yeah, like, exactly. Yeah, because I like to do, like you were saying, I like to strip all of the shit off.
Yes.
Strip it off. The beauty is underneath all of that.
So this is gonna add like an odd question, but okay, so there's the AHA experience,
mm-hmm.
Okay, which flows beautifully. And then there's celeb bitchy.
Yes.
Explain that.
So celeb bitchy is not mine. It's someone else's. And I was invited in to be a part of it, which I love because it's really interesting because I tend to be really just all about like my joy and my spiritual journey, but there's this other side of me that's just trash, and I like reading celebrity gossip. We're multifaceted beings. I like celebrity gossip, depending on who the celebrity is. Some people I'm just like, I could do without. But I get this beautiful opportunity to tell stories about different celebrity, especially the Black ones, from the point of view of a Black person. And so, because a lot of the times when we're reading these stories, it's not necessarily Black people reading them. So, of course, they're going to give their 2 cents based on that. I get to give my 2 cents from the point of view of a Black woman. So, and I get to elevate these actors who may go unnoticed sometimes, and it's fun for me. It's just that it's kind of like my fluff area. It's like everything else that I do is a little bit more serious, and Celebrity is where I get to just have fun.
So that's like kind of like your outlet.
Yeah.
Oh, but it still has, oddly enough, if you like, I know you read your stuff, duh, but
only to correct mistakes, girl. Only to correct mistakes.
But when you read it, like, seriously, if you read like the stuff on your article, like on your website, and then you read what you have on, when you do your articles, they still have the same flow. Like, you still have like, let's highlight the person here and the situation, but let's put things in perspective. You're very big on perspective.
Yes.
And which is where my next question is going to come in, is when you designed the whole AHA experience, was that part of the perspective? Like, part of that whole game was to create something that introduced a unique, like, you gotta explain AHA experience to me, because I think that's like the coolest thing ever.
Okay, so when I was studying at the ashram, right, we were learning Sanskrit, which is an ancient Indian language, blah, blah, blah. What a lot of people may not know about Sanskrit is each letter is placed on a part of your body. So there's a vowel called ah, but it's pronounced aha, and it represents the crown of your head. And if you notice, when we have one of those moments where we're like, oh yeah, we have that experience, we tend to grab the top of our head. Have you noticed that when you get something, when you get it, you're like, oh yeah, you either grab the top of your head or you smack your forehead. That's because it's a divine inspiration that comes to you and you get it. So I named,
And I just
yeah,
got it.
there you go. So I named it Aha because that's the whole point. Because I didn't, a lot of times we create what we need. I couldn't see myself fully for a very, very long time. And so, but I could see everyone else. I couldn't see me. And so now that I see me and I truly embrace all of me, even the shady, shadowy shit that people may not like, I personally love it because there's something about being in the shadow part of yourself sometimes that feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to see myself fully is a beautiful thing. And so for me, when I say I want to hold up the mirror, it's because I want people to have the experience of really seeing themselves fully.
I never. Ah. Oh, I get it. I'm so me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm a dork.
I'm
Don't
not,
judge.
girl, listen, I'm the goofiest person you'll ever meet. Listen, you've seen my articles about the Duke of Hastings.
Ah, let's not go there. I just introduced my friend to Bridgerton, and she says, now I know why you took notes. I'm like,
And mind you, he is so much young.
uh-huh.
He's your age. He's actually younger than you. He's way younger than me. And I'm over here lusting after, Reggae John. I'm like, oh, he's so pretty.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I know. It's
Tell
so
me about it.
wonderful. Mm-hmm.
It's the interesting thing is though, and you like I said, you mentioned in the beginning about like the black women in the black woman experience. It's really refreshing to hear that it's not just about I'm all for empowerment. Don't get me wrong. I believe we should all find a way to lift each other up, empower and
Mm-hmm.
inspire each other. But I feel like as a black woman, because of everything that's going on in our world
Mm-hmm.
around us, that it's this we forget that our armor or what we bring to the table is already within
Yes.
us, and it's just we need to embrace that.
And the other thing
And
about Black women that we need to really truly get is being vulnerable is not a bad thing.
in
It
fact, it's the
is
strength.
very much so.
And your yoga, which I am going to try.
Yay! You coming tomorrow?
I'm not gonna lie, I am gonna. I am.
Yay!
And part of the reason why is because I haven't done yoga in a
Mhm.
few years, and I really do miss it. I did a lot as a child with my
Mhm.
stepdad, and he was really, because we're kids, we were
Right.
rambunctious and
Right.
we're nuts. So he found a way, to calm us down. So an hour a week, or after school, we would do
Mm.
yoga, and then after that we would do our homework, or we would read a book. Like he tried to keep it that time was a
Right.
calm time.
Very nice.
And then when you become an adult, and then when the world is like when you're surrounded by the world around you, the the um the calm is really important. So let's talk about
Okay.
yoga.
Let's talk.
Tell me, let's talk. So why this specific kind of yoga, if you don't mind me asking?
So I got into yoga about 12 years ago. I always tell the story about how I got into yoga. I actually tried yoga in 2007 for the first time. And when I walked into the class and I sat on
Mm-hmm.
the floor, this guy came into the class, sat on the floor kind of in front of me, and then wrapped his legs around his head. And I was like, yeah, no, this is not for me. Rolled up a mat,
uh
left the building. Took me 2 years to go back again. And that was in 2009. And I actually started that journey because I was trying to lose weight. But also, my life was so hectic at that time. I had lost my grandmother, my father, and my uncle all within 2 years of each other from lung cancer. And I was
Mm-hmm.
just stressed. I was doing my master's program and I was working 2 to 3 jobs at times. And I was like, I need something for me. And so I joined Jin Yoga in Houston and I started Hatha Yoga. And my first teacher was this Indian lady named Geeta, and she was absolutely freaking amazing, right? I'm saying Geeta, but I don't know if that was her name. I can't really remember. I remember her face. And she made me fall in love with it, but yoga is expensive. So I was only doing yoga sporadically for the next 10 years. Then I wanted to live in an ashram for a year, which didn't happen. And I got that idea from Elizabeth Gilbert. I didn't even know what an ashram was until I read it in Eat, Pray, Love for the first time, but it sounded like something that I wanted to do. And in 2017, I was going through a lot. I was in some really toxic friendships. And like I told you, I like to run away. So I started fantasizing about being in an ashram, and I went online to try to find one. And I wanted to study traditional tantra because I knew that and I'm going to be real here, all of the tantra that the white girls were talking about, where it's all focused on sex and sexual positions and sexual pleasure and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, okay, that may be some part of it, but there's something missing. And I really wanted to learn from a dark skinned Indian man what traditional tantra was. So I started doing this research on a whim on a one day, trying to find an ashram where I could do this, and I discovered Sri Kali, and then I forgot about it. And then I was going through some real serious shit in 2018, and I went to, because I was working for Facebook but working from home, so I went to New Orleans for a few weeks. And while I was sitting there, I had that strong urge again to go to an ashram once my contract ended in 2019. And I started looking at it again. And then I remembered that I found that one ashram that had Kali in the name of it, but I couldn't remember what it was. So I frantically started looking for it again, and I discovered it one more time and decided I was going to go study. Now, I knew they were teaching yoga, but I never really focused on it in that way because for me learning yoga there would have been for me only. I hadn't planned on being a teacher. And when I got to the ashram, I didn't know what to expect of their yoga. It wasn't until I laid down on the floor for the first time that I realized that was the yoga for me. It took me about a month to relax in shavasana. I used to have panic attacks in shavasana, and this, if you do the tridosha in this particular practice, you're in shavasana a lot. So I'm having panic attacks between poses, you know. But once my body learned to relax, because that's part of it, the tridosha is that it's training your cells to relax and meditate. It took about a month, and then after that, I just fell into it. And every time I would get up off the floor, I felt blissful, and I feel like this is what Black women need. I think women in general need it, but I really believe Black women need it really because we have a lot coming at us from within our community and from without our community, and we're getting told that we're supposed to just suck it up. And I feel like this form of yoga teaches you self-love without actually saying it, and it teaches you to strip away all of your social conditioning so that you're down to just you. And once you get to just you make better and different decisions. So I want to just teach, I just want to share this practice with everyone because with all the anxiety that we suffer from, I suffer from anxiety and PTSD. My childhood was rough. It really does help balance me out.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you mentioned, because it sounds like a lot of like mental health is very big, especially
Yeah.
amongst Black women or the African American community in general. But you said it yourself that as Black women, we
Yes.
hold a lot, we
Mm-hmm.
deal with a lot, and there's not much. I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't make me sound like I'm whining. I'm not. There's not many
No.
allies for us as Black women, and we need to find a way to be
Mm-hmm.
our own ally. but in a healthy way. And I was reading about your yoga, classes and everything, and the importance of energy and releasing that energy, but keeping positive energy in, and the importance of self, but also the importance of, like, for our mental health and that clarity. I was like, this is right on time.
Right.
Let's do this.
And here's the thing about the yoga. It's not just about holding positive energy, right? This yoga helps you to create the space for all of it without it attaching itself to you. It's almost like, you get what I mean? And like it builds you up in a way. And it's funny you're coming tomorrow, because we're not doing the Tridosha tomorrow. We're going to be doing the fire series, so get ready. The fire series, girl, will burn a whole lot out of you. You know what I mean? Like, so
let's do this.
So yeah, it does. It does create this. It creates a receptacle for you to hold it all without feeling like you're holding it all. That's the beauty of it.
And I think that's really needed, because between everything that happened in 2020, and trust me, I understand when you're saying that, because when 2020 hit for me, at an odd little way, I was like, you know when people say you, like, prepare for the worst but hope for the best? I already went through the worst. So it's like, this is like, I had training. Right. I already had my training. Let's do this.
Exactly.
So when you said that, it's like, I've had 2020 for like for years. I don't even know what you're talking about. So, like, in my head, I'm going, someone gets me.
It's so true. And again, it's all about your perspective too, right? It's how you look at it. But I think what was going on with 2022 was, it was a moment that the universe was giving everybody, again, with the deaths and the horrible, losing so many people aside, on a macro level, was giving us an opportunity to slow down and take a look at our lives, to release the stuff that didn't work. And a lot of people, instead of doing that, they were like literally rebelling against what was, the universe was trying to get us to do. Right. And so they made it hell for those who were trying to sit still.
Yeah, my mom used to say a lot when I was a kid, and she says it still as an adult. So there's two things people will always struggle with, and that's loss and change. And I think 2020 had both of them at the same time. But if, and I think that's why, mental health is so important. The conversation about ways to channel that energy and perspective is also important. And I mean, obviously, we're talking about two different generations here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey.
I got 12 years on you, girl.
But, yeah. But the important thing is that one thing that I think brings us both together is the fact that we have this immense respect for what the universe is telling us, and that sometimes it's telling us to stop and think and breathe, and what is really working. Because if it's not working, why are you forcing it? And I'm listening to you right now, and it's so spot on, and it's so inspiring to hear out loud. Because, sometimes when people talk about things, talk about yoga and mental health and storytelling, it has this facade with it, and I think that's a lot due to social media. Social media, they like, well, if you take this right angle and then you use these filters, you look happy.
Everything is a constructed, imaginary, illusional place.
Exactly, but you kind of got to the soul of the conversation, or the soul of the image, and I think that's what we're missing in this world, and I think that's what you bring to light through your podcasting and through experience. And the funny thing is, if you go on your website, it kind of looks like a gallery. And I think that's like the coolest thing ever. So I really, really hope that when people like the first thing they do is they go on your website and it's like this huge like it's not I'm not gonna call it virtual, but it's like it draws you in. And, you know, and in real estate you don't have anything that cool.
You can always make it like that cool, girl. Be new, be different.
You know, we get like this is the house. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But it's a beautiful marble counter.
Have you like literally? You can literally be very different and pull people in by telling the story of the house on your website.
You know what? I've actually thought about that, and I've played around with it, and I think I might give it a shot on some listings and see what happens. Because, you know, now I'm on TikTok. And
I
so
am on TikTok. I haven't started using it yet.
It would be really cool, though, because think about it. It'd be, you know, I know it sounds really weird, but TikTok is introvert friendly.
Yes, agreed.
But, and it's a little different than the other platforms. Like, you really can't fake it as much as people think they could. So that's the beautiful part about it. But, you know, I really do hope that, you know, that people, when they listen to this podcast or when they listen to you, that they understand that really the importance really is self and how self resonates, especially when it comes to finding that journey and finding your balance. I mean, you went from like medicine to
fashion,
you know, explorer to pastor to, you know,
to now not Christian at all. I didn't tell you how I went to Judaism too. I did a conversion in 2007. I did.
No, you did?
In 2007, and I practiced Judaism for a while, but then I started having like a cognitive dissonance with the situation in Israel with the Palestinian people, and I was like, okay, I cannot embrace this practice because of what I'm seeing, but also because all of the Abrahamic faiths have no feminine energy in it. And so I was like, well, where's the feminine? I mean, I'm a woman, that's a man. We have some non-binary gendered people, transgender people. If we're all created in God's image, then where is it represented in these stories? So I started to research goddess myths. So I will be teaching a series, I think in March or April, about the goddess myths that I created a while ago. I got to revamp it to make it more modern. I created it like 5 years ago, but it's a big deal. You know, how, of course, women don't feel like they matter in a world that is literally built on the masculine, including our religious practices. Of course not.
See, you got me thinking now.
Oh my God.
Well, that explains Sunday school.
You hated it, didn't you? Uh-huh.
Oh God, I did. And this felt so strained.
Yeah.
Like something was missing. Yeah. Oh.
Like think about the Bible. The Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Where's the daughter? Where is she? Where's the wife? What's going on? You know, like, where?
You know what? And the odd thing is that if it wasn't for Mary, there would be no Jesus.
What I said, sis. What I said. And then people, and I love when I say this to Christian, they be like, the Holy Spirit is the feminine. They call the Holy Spirit he in the Bible. How is that the feminine? Explain.
Okay, so not gonna lie, I kind of have like this weird thing though that I call God a woman. Time. Because I remember in the Bible, well, not in the Bible, I remember it was like, I think it was in the Bible or where I was at church, where I was at Mass, and it said God is whatever image you want him to be. And I'm like, well, I think God's a woman. And because, you know, the nurturing, the I'm gonna let you, you know, it's just like, it falls into all the things of a woman would do. Like, I'm gonna let you ride your wave. Go ahead. Lose your mind. but you're gonna have that George of the Jungle moment. You're gonna hit. You're gonna realize that I was right from the beginning. or you'll have like that nurturing moment. Like, I know you.
It'll
I
be
know,
okay.
but give it time. It'll be okay. So every time I read it, and every time that people quote like what they said that God thinks that, you really don't know, because when it comes to women,
Yes.
women are very strategic, but we're also
Yep.
nurturing, we're also caring,
Yep.
but we're also fighters. So in my head, I always thought that God was a woman. I always imagined God being a woman, and that it takes a woman to create. So I always assumed that, and I'm not knocking men, because I have brothers, and I love them to death, and they've had my back and everything. But there's a thing that says that if you give whatever you give a woman, she holds and creates. So if you give a woman, sperm, she creates a kid. If you give a woman a house, she makes it a home. So I always thought that if you're giving her this star, or this light, then she's gonna give you the world. So I always thought God was a woman. So I listening to what you're saying, I can see why you feel that way. I can see where your perspective comes from, and that, like, that ties into everything we talked about that importance of, release and change and understanding the process. And also, and I have to ask the elephant in the room, and I really have to ask this question, but what is your favorite part of storytelling? Even in the photography, the podcasting, and everything, it all ties back to storytelling. So what is it about storytelling that you love so much?
Oh my God. You got me. Let's see. This is going to sound strange, but this is the only way that I can explain it. I love the journey of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times what we see when we look at someone, we see where they started and we see where they end up. But the in between gets chunked out the window, or it gets told differently to make them look like a hero. We don't see the mess. That's what it is. I like the mess, the chaos in the story as it's forming what it's supposed to be creating. I love the chaos.
Mm. I'm glad I asked, because, like, even with the because think about it. If you really, like, listen to the whole thing, like, you have the podcast. The podcast is really about this person's journey and how she got to this point, but how, like, the crazy got her there. If you look at your photography, the photography is that nothing's really perfect. I mean, it's beautiful. The woman, the subject is gorgeous. I mean, I love the fact that you are highlighting natural hair, and speaking as someone who is 4C and the struggle is real. We thank you.
Right.
Okay. There's not a lot of us out there that celebrates 4C hair. I feel like we're kind of like Harry Potter of the hair world. So it's the best way to explain it. But you still found the beauty in all of in everything. So, but it's the chaos is like that imperfections that I can tell you love so much. But it all ties to the same thing. So I was wondering, what inspires you, or what makes you? Why is it about storytelling that's so big with you? And I think that's really, really awesome. And also the fact that you also do a pop culture thing at the same time, because it's, sometimes the world can get a little serious. A little fun is also a good thing. And I think that I am a member of the Sussa Squad. That's how you think. Yes.
Yeah. Like, I'm on the periphery. I'm on the periphery because I don't do clubs.
Right. But the funny thing is,
I know, right?
No, seriously.
I'm all up in there, girl. I'll be like, hey. And then when everything started to get real messy, I'll be like, oh no. And I pack up.
Well, I think part of the reason why it's like that is because you have to keep
Yes.
a balanced perspective. I mean, if you're going to be in a certain industry, you can't just go all in. I think the thing is, there has to be a line in the sand, and I respect that. But your but still your protectiveness or your compassion really shows online. And hearing you now and talking to you now, which is a huge honor in my opinion, and I can see where now hearing you, I can see where that how you became that person. And I just have like one huge question that I've been trying to avoid asking, but if I don't ask it, I know full blown well I'm going to regret it. And you would think, being the daughter of a teacher, we would be like, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Yes, there is. But I'm going to ask it anyway. If you can make one wish, okay, I know this ends in Disney and we're all adults, but if you have one wish that you would love to see happen in the world, like if you can make one wish that, that if it's possible that can happen,
for the world,
what would
or for
be
me?
that wish?
Okay.
You know what? Let's do both. One for you, one for the world.
For the world, this is gonna sound crazy, but for the world, what I would love to see is white supremacy eradicated. I feel like white supremacy and this out of control patriarchal sort of environment is an ill. It's killing all of us. Not just on a physical level, it's destroying our souls in a lot of ways, including those who operate in it. You know what I mean? Like, we don't really think about the perpetrator, we think about the victim. But what we don't understand is, just as dehumanizing as it is for the victim, it dehumanizes the perpetrator. They lose themselves. They lose a part of themselves when they are operating from a place of hate. Or and it's funny because it's not that they hate us. They fear us. They fear our greatness. They fear our beauty. They fear our contribution to the world. And when they operate from this place, it's an illusion anyway, because they're not supreme and they know it. But in order to make themselves feel good, or for that outward validation it's like narcissism on steroids. They perpetrate these inhumane things on others. And so I would love to see that eradicated, those two things eradicated, and an elevation of the feminine to be on the same equal footing as the masculine. And I really believe that it would start to really right the world in some way, especially hunger. Because when you research the egalitarian societies from ancient times, they didn't have poverty. They didn't have a lot of war. Everyone was happy and joyous. This is what you see in the Scandinavian countries. There's a reason why having a balance between the two forces it's beneficial for everybody, if that makes any sense. Okay, and for me, like I said, I want to be a cinematic documentarian. So I would love to one day work with Ava DuVernay. It's like a big dream of mine. But I would love to see myself on the stage receiving an Oscar for something that I did one day.
Oh, I would like that
one
too.
Day. It may happen.
Don't be mad though if I don't attend, but can I just wear the dress and just
do it. Sit on your floor, pop a squat,
as I watch you?
Watch it.
Okay. Yeah. I just want the dress.
Oh my God. People are like, so what you eating today? Air pudding, I gotta get in this dress. Oh my gosh. Oh. I also wanted to add something else. I was saying that I had
But
12 years on you. I didn't mean that in a derogatory way because I believe that you can learn from everybody. And in fact, I learn a lot from people who are younger than me. You guys seem to see the world in a very, very clear way that some of us don't. And I love sitting with younger people because they have a different type of wisdom that, you
okay, so I'm
know.
gonna say
Okay.
something, and I'm gonna actually wrap myself out.
Uh-huh.
My full name. I'm not giving my full name because that's a long name. But one of my names is actually Anthony. I am named after my two
Oh, okay.
cousins and my uncle. Okay, that's their middle
Right.
names.
Yep.
Okay, they're all older than I am. They're all Gen X's.
Aw.
My cousin Adam is my role model.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Adam Anthony.
Mm.
He inspired me to play the drums. He inspired me to become an altar server. He inspired me to
Mm-hmm.
actually do a lot of the things that I do.
Wow.
And he is also my godfather. But that's but and I'm saying that to say this. I have learned at a very young age that that when it comes to learning and growing, that never underestimate what you bring to the table or never assume. So first of all, you
Mm-hmm.
being 12 years older than I am is not offensive, considering the fact that my mom's 30 years older than I am, and I
Right.
still talk to her and I still ask her for advice. In fact, she's in my, I call her
Yes.
like the official Vita counsel when I became an adult. So, and she was born 1958 and I was
Right.
born 1988. So we're talking
That's
about
a
30
30-year
year
difference.
difference.
Yep.
There's a 30-year difference. So, yep. So please do not think that, first of all, never apologize
Yeah.
for being who you are and saying what you're saying, because you would be
Mm-hmm.
surprised how many people really need to hear it. And another thing is, we all can learn from each other. We all can learn from these experiences, and we all can. And I'm not trying to sound like kumbaya because
No.
I'm also a New Yorker and we don't do that. But no, but if I was raised in a very old school family, and one thing we learned is I have two ears and one mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and we should listen more than we talk.
Mm-hmm.
And listening to you, I have learned so much. Talking to you and reading about what you're doing, and
Mm.
listening to your podcast, I have learned so much. And the reason why I really wanted you on this early experience with
Aw.
me is because I wanted to thank you. And I wanted to thank you in a way that, I may not be as big as you guys yet. And I know everything's a journey, as we have discussed. But this is my way of saying thank you so much for the insight and the tips and the knowledge and the support and everything. If so I don't care if you're 12 years older than I am.
God,
It doesn't matter to me.
uh,
I'm still trying to prove the
listen,
fact
I'm
that I'm
45 and
32. I
I'll
still
be
get
45 in
carded.
April and I still get carded. Listen, people are like, aren't
All
you
right
like
then. So I don't even know what you're
28 or
talking about.
something? I'm like, 28?
And there's
Really?
my New
Like,
York
come
accent.
on.
8. Right. So, my mom's turning, like I told you, I'm turning 33 this year. My godmother's turning
Mm-hmm.
73 this year. My mom's turning 63 this year. And the funny thing is, if someone looked at all three of us, that's why I never complain as much when it comes to the way I look. Because if you look at my mom, she doesn't look like she's in her 60s. If you look at my godmother, she doesn't look like she's in her 70s. So I kind of one of those people that go, there's nothing to see here,
Right?
people. I'm okay.
Oh
This
my
is all
God.
good. Like,
I'm not complaining. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
No, because you think about it, if you put it in perspective, that also tells you a lot about the environments that we're in, that no matter what we found, because, you know, I read somewhere, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I read somewhere that if you're a, we gotta wrap this up soon. It's like so easy to talk to you, that, you know, you can tell about what's going on in your environment by the stress on your face. I read that. I don't know if it's true or not, but I read that somewhere. And looking at my mom and looking at the women in my family, and, you know, seeing how they still have that energy, and they still have that youthfulness, and, you know, that curiosity about them. I really do think that theory is correct, that if you let too much of the world in, because they're big on filters in their own way. Okay, like there's certain things they just don't allow in their bubble, and they'll let you know. They're like, there's a list. There's the do's and don'ts, like entering a restaurant. So, you know, that how they were able to be that way for so long, I think it's a lot of that due to the fact that
tell you thank you for being a part of my world and my life. I just love seeing your posts. They make me giggle. You're really a bright light and a bottle of joy, despite being from a great city called New York, where everyone wears black.
Thank you.
And I love you for it. I know. I love New York, and I love the people from New York. I think the people of New York are actually wonderful, but they just have this veneer of
that's about right,
non-fuckery, you know. But New Yorkers are actually like, yeah, they're kind.
Pretty
People
much.
don't have time for the BS, you know. But thank you so much for being a part of my world too, and I'm looking forward to see where you go and how you grow and stuff. Oh, also, I wanted to correct you. You said you're not as big as us. You are.
Thank you.
Inside. You just have to realize it. You just have to realize it. You got to pull the layers back and show it.
Thank you for that. Okay, so let's.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm blushing right now. Oh no! Okay, so thank you for coming on, and I'm still blushing. Hold on a minute.
You need to hear them words, girl.
All right. Okay, so thank you, Tanisha, for coming on, and tell everyone how we can find you.
You can go to my site, the AHA, ATHEAHA experience, EXPERINCE.co. And there you'll be able to find everything about me there. And I'm on Twitter at Tanisha, TANISHA _EV. So yeah, come find me.
Thank you so much for coming on. Everyone have a great day. This is the Genesis Home Podcast. All right, bye.
Thank you. Bye.